More characters, mechanics, quests, and even a few locations were still being developed, but ultimately had to be given the axe from the game before it was released. Usually this was due to time limitations, but simple conflicts in narrative also seem to have been a prime reason for Bethesda either removing or just not finishing so much. Well, today, for the first time in a few months, we take yet another look at some of the content that was cut from Skyrim for whatever the reasons may have been. Starting off, we have both a cut NPC and a cut quest. In the released version of Skyrim, Trius' camp can be found east of Dawnstar, right off of the Sea of Ghosts. It's a small setup, and laying in a tent, you can find Trius' own skeletal remains. He died, next to a letter he left for a lover. It reads, "Shelley, your ship should have arrived weeks ago, and I fear the worst has happened. I've set up camp on this rock, as your ship should pass by here, and hopefully one of these days, we'll be together again. If you're reading this, I'm probably out hunting or bringing in some supplies. I'll be waiting here until I see your face again. Faithfully yours, Trius." Alas, it's clear Shelley's ship probably never made it, and unless these bones belonged to someone else, Trius died while waiting for his love. However, Bethesda seems to have originally had much bigger plans for this unfortunate man. Unused quest files, as well as an unused NPC, suggest that Trius was actually supposed to have been alive. He would be a very much living NPC still present at his camp, and still waiting for his lover Shelley, just not dead. When approached, he would ask the Dragonborn to find out what happened to his love. Thus would begin the now cut quest, Trius' Trinket, where you would be tasked with searching the various shipwrecks scattered across the ocean floor, looking for Shelley's. You'd eventually find a specific necklace that belonged to her aboard one of the sunken vessels, that you could return to Trius to offer him a bit of closure on his dilemma. In return, Trius would somberly teach you a new spell, as well as offer his dearest thanks for your efforts. Next, we have a couple of cut companions. First of the two, pack spiders were originally supposed to be available as potential followers in the Dragonborn DLC. They bear a similar appearance to frostbite spiders, however they'd have an interesting use. Rather than help the Dragonborn in combat, pack spiders were meant to act sort of as mobile chests. They would carry around various items for the player, ignoring carry weight, and would simply avoid combat in general. Think of them as extensions to your own carry weight. When approached, they'd have the options of a normal chest, not of a follower. Furthermore, glowing spiders would act similar to pack spiders, in of it that they didn't have much implementation in combat scenarios, but instead would become a mobile light source for the Dragonborn. Both of these adorable arachnids could have been crafted in the imbuing chamber in White Ridge Sanctum. Unfortunately, while all of their data is in the vanilla game, if you don't have access to console commands, you'll never get to craft these adorable creatures. At number 3, Wayward Pass is a small area in between two mountains west of Winterhold. What's most interesting about this location is the small memorial that's been set up around a skeleton. There's a shrine of Arche as well as an amulet of the same god too. Well, if you approach these skeletal remains, you'll notice you can pick up its skull specifically, and that skull has a unique name. It's called the Ancient Traveler's Skull. Well, grab that skull in the release version of the game, and nothing will happen. However, a look into the creation kit suggests that Bethesda had slightly more climactic plans. An unused ghostly NPC by the name of Spirit of the Ancient Traveler exists in the game's files. This character would have been spawned in when the Dragonborn took the skull from Wayward Pass, and he would not be very happy, immediately attacking the player. Notably, this spirit would have no head, implying that by taking his skull, you disturbed this ghost, and he wants it back. It's also worth noting that the Spirit of the Ancient Traveler bears the same character model as the Headless Horseman, so perhaps Bethesda gave this character the axe to make room for another spooky NPC. Fourth on this list is the cut quest, The Missing Apprentices. This quest would have been assigned by Finis Gestor of the College of Winterhold. He'd ask you to find out what happened to 4 of his missing students. He mentions that 4 of his pupils went off studying various spells, and never returned. It would be up to you to find out what really happened to them. Spoiler alert, they all died. The Dragonborn would then find all of the students' corpses and recover some of their personal items as proof of their fates and identification to return to Finis for a small reward. Now the funny thing about this quest is all of the students died in very ironic ways. A girl named Ysara accidentally blew herself up when practicing a combustion spell, another student by the name of Elias Tay inadvertently tricked his own skeevers into eating him alive when studying illusion. Very strange stuff. However, unlike the other bits and pieces of cut content in this video, the Missing Apprentices quest doesn't seem to have been purposefully removed by Bethesda, but instead accidentally broken by them. The reason being is that in the vanilla game, you can still find some of the college's students' dead bodies, and some of their unique items. You just can't actually return any of these items or report back to Finis for a reward, as the quest won't start. Furthermore, Finis Gestor even has a few lines in vanilla mentioning his recently disappeared pupils, but you'll never be able to actually start the quest. And finally, the Vigilants of Stendarr were supposed to be considerably more annoying and militant in their crusade against the Daedra. As seems to be the norm, some cut scripts and dialogue reveal that the Vigilants of Stendarr were at one point intended to track down players wielding Daedric artifacts, and demand they surrender them. So say you had just acquired Sanguine's Rose, a Daedric staff you could earn by doing Sanguine's quest, A Night to Remember. Well, if you got close to a Vigilant while wielding that weapon, they would approach you and order that you give them the staff, as it belonged to a Daedra, the thing they hate the most. Well, from here, you would have a couple of options. Say no to the Vigilants and stand up for your right to bear demonically possessed arms, in which case they would immediately turn hostile and attempt to take them by force, or perhaps more interestingly, entertain their request and hand over whatever Daedric artifacts they demand. Choosing this option wouldn't mean that your objects are gone forever, but instead they would be locked away inside of a safe located at the Hall of the Vigilant, the faction's headquarters. You would then need to make your way to the Hall of the Vigilant, and from there either sneak your way to the safe and steal your property back, or skip the stealth nonsense and slaughter everybody, getting the key to the vault off of someone's body. Everything for this whole little affair seemed to be ready to go from a script and dialogue perspective. However, for whatever reason, Bethesda still decided to do away with this whole sequence. And instead, you can now proudly walk up to a Vigilant of Stendarr in full Daedric armor, and they won't even blink twice. And there you have it, yet another 5 pieces of Skyrim's cut content. We haven't done one of these in a few months, so I figured today was a good opportunity. If you're looking to find a way to bring some of this content back into the game, I would highly recommend the PC and Xbox One mod, The Cutting Room Floor. It adds in an entire plethora of content removed from the game, including everything I've mentioned on this list, with the exception of the Trias quest and the spiders. However, both of those are accessible via console commands. Anyway, thanks for stopping by everyone. If you enjoyed the video, like ratings are always very much appreciated. And which piece of cut content would you like to have seen in the base game the most? Leave a comment down below. Again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody. Ah! Did I scare you this time? I was told to spice up my intros, and this is my way of doing that. You're welcome! Anyway, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here, and Skyrim has quite a bit of content. Hundreds of weapons, spells, perks, characters, and locations populate this realm. Anywhere you look, there's a new problem to solve or item to acquire. But, did you know that despite this abundance, Bethesda had originally planned for Skyrim to have even more content, that sadly had to get cut and left out, for a variety of potential reasons. There's quite a lot that could have been but never was. Thankfully, leftover files by Bethesda give us some insight on what they were preparing. So sit back and relax as we take yet another look into the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim's cut content. Starting off, Skyrim's archery skill tree wasn't entirely finished. You see, Bethesda had intended for a now cut perk known as Trick Shot to be unlockable on the skill tree once the player had advanced the archery skill past level 80. This perk would have given players an ever so small chance at disarming enemy NPCs whenever shooting them with an arrow. Interestingly enough, while removed from the skill tree and unaccessible via normal gameplay, the Trickshot perk can still be obtained on PC through the use of console commands. As while they never added it in, Bethesda also never decided to remove the perk from the game's files. And it works perfectly fine, just as it reads. When successful, it will indeed disarm enemy characters, and even give you a chance to pick up an opponent's weapon after they've been dropped. It's unclear why Trickshot was removed, as it doesn't seem to have any technical issues. Bethesda may have decided that the ability was just too unbalanced, though in my limited testing I never thought it was overpowered, nor underpowered. Regardless, if you are on PC and want to try this perk out for yourself, I'll leave the necessary console commands in the description down below. Next on our list, as we talked about in the intro, Skyrim has an abundant supply and variety of weapons for the player to use. Bows, swords, axes, hammers, weird magic stuff. The possibilities are limitless. However, at some point early in the game's development, it appears Bethesda had wanted that list to be just a little bit longer, as in the game's files are models for a weapon called Knuckles. Now, other than that, we don't know much more for certain about this strange weapon, as unlike much of what we show off on this list, Bethesda never fully integrated Knuckles into the game. They have no assigned stats, nor can they be equipped even with console commands. They just designed a model for it, and then scrapped the whole idea shortly after. But we can still make a pretty obvious educated guess. Considering what we know about similar weapons in the real world, this cut weapon likely would have been put on the player's well, Knuckles, to make melee attacks more effective. Looking at how similar weapons works, it